Alrighty. Hi. Today I want to talk about how to make a Hotlap setup for the Nordschleife. I used the Mercedes-Benz 190e EVO, the model from 1990. It's a stock Kunos car from Assetto Corsa. For lap times I used two different references. On the one hand, I used a YouTube record of 6:51 for the tourist layout, so for bridge to gantry, and the data from acringleaders.com. There are the top 30 drivers from 200 lap times are around 7 minutes and 5 seconds. Later on, I stumbled upon a very nice reference. So in a DTM race in 1990, Klaus Ludwig did a pole position lap of 9 minutes and 5 seconds on a 25.3 kilometer layout, so a little bit shorter than now. The weather at the date was round about 18 to 21 degrees Celsius. So it was sunny and warm, but also up to 0.5 millimeter rain. I guess typical Nordschleife weather with like a little bit of fog. Yeah. So important for the comparison is the layout changed a bit. So GP circuit got slower since then, and the Nordschleife got a bit faster. So I think it's on par. Yeah, so I set up two targets. One, I want to have a more sharp and neutral mechanical grip car. So it's that wobbly stuff needs to go, and I want to have more precision basically. For the target 2, basically it's lap times. It's a 920 on the 24-hour layout, and a 7:05 on the bridge to gantry tourist layout. I think the best way is to explain the tune I ended up with and go through every register there, just explain why I ended up there. So gear set, stock gear set is like 265 VMAX, and I liked it. It was good, but I didn't like the jump from 5th to 6th, because up to Kesselchen, so that's a long uphill straight at the middle of the track, you need to shift at 226, and then the engine hasn't enough power. So I fiddled a little bit around, and I ended up with gear set 2, and with a gearing of 237 for the 5th, and the car will reach that on the uphill section in the middle of the track, and that's good. The rest was also good. So a long first gear and then short jumps up to 6. For me, it's the best. Maybe for you it will be different, but yeah, having the highest speed in the uphill section, it's kind of good for a good lap time. The tires, stock setup comes with like medium and 23 psi. Sure, you want to have a fast time, so you go for softs, and with the tarmac temperature I could lower the tires of 1 psi. It was already enough. The front left was always a little bit hot, so I reduced one tire a little bit more. You can do that from time to time on specific cars. I don't know why it's so hot there, but not all tires on 21, because then it would be too slippery. You want to have the tires as hard as possible, but also as hot as possible. Fuel, stock fuel comes with 30 liters. Keep that until you're done. You can always reduce it as the last step. Electronics also you don't touch. It's ABS, you want it, it helps you. You can put it on 0 if you want to try how the brake's performing, but normally 1 is okay. The arrow stock is 3 and 3. You don't touch it until you understand the car. As soon as you understand, so alignment, dampers, drivetrain, suspension, ride height, ARBs, everything is kind of there, you can start to play. So on my first iteration I didn't touch. On the second iteration I reduced the rear wing a bit to have more high speed, and in the third iteration I just reduced it even more, but I also lowered the front a little bit more and put the rear a little bit more into height, so it would be like 2.5 and 1.5 maybe. Yeah, so let's keep it stock as the standard tune as long as possible. You reduce it just in the end to have a higher speed. And also in corners you will need more mechanical grip when you reduce the rear wing especially. Sometimes the front splitter, it helps to understand to reduce it, because sometimes you have understeer when it's high, especially in mid-speed corners. The alignment, I try to keep it stock. So standard is like 3.1 something and 2.5. In the rear I reduced 1 click because softer springs. In the front the springs are harder, so I didn't change, just in the end like 0.5 for a little bit more high speed grip, so they will understeer a little bit less. In my iterations for the toe, I started with like 0 toe in the front and like 0.9 in the rear, close to 0.10. And then second iteration it was 0.05 front, minus 0.05 in the front and 0.05 in the rear. Toe is a tricky one. If you have unprecise steering, like this car had, you go for 0 and check what's going on. If you have a loose rear, you can go for high toe, but then the car will snap easier. You can also go for 0 to have a straight tire and find out what the wheel kinematics are doing under load, so when the wheel is traveling up and down. In the end, I ended up with both worlds, so I like the best a little bit open in the front. This is quite too standard stock tuning, and the rear like below 0.10. You're always safe with that. It's a little bit high, but it doesn't seem it's that expensive on the straights in this car because the rear is very light. Yeah, so that's like it is now, and the tire temps are looking good and the time also, so I will keep it. Sometimes the front toe is crucial for fatigue. You want to have it a little bit open, to have a little bit slower reaction through bumps and curves. 0 is the best feeling wise, but also from the scrub in mid corner it's not ideal, and even also when it's too big it's not the best. Dampers on this car was like a nightmare. It's like 0 in the front rebound and 2 bump in the front, and in the rear it was like 1 bump and 2 rebound. Yeah, If the rebound is 0, the damper will open fast. If the bump is 2, the damper will put a lot of resistance against some bump on the tarmac. On the Nordschleife, you don't want that. 0 as a value in Assetto Corsa seems to be fine. But yeah, it was all shaky. So I went up with the rebound for 1 and the bump for down from 2 to 1. So the car will stay in the travel where it is a little bit longer because you close the rebound, and so on 1 it will be slower than on 0, and you reduce the bump to have less resistance and bumps on tarmac. On the rear, I would like 0 on the rebound, but with the telemetry app, live telemetry it's called, I could see that the damper stroke got maxed out, so not the compression but the stroke into the length, and you make the damper and rebound a little bit slower, so then you will not max out the damper and the car will stay a little bit more calm. This is especially corner inside tire on downhill sections. For the drivetrain, I fiddled a little bit around. The diff power was stock on like 60, 65 and coast was 40. In my first iteration with the 0 toe and 0.1 toe in the rear, I went for like 30 power and 60 coast, but the rear under acceleration was a little bit too loose and the coast made the car a little bit too planted under braking and mid corner. So I went in the second iteration, I went for 20-50, but then I had some 1 tire fire on exit, and on the coast I still felt, even I reduced in the second iteration the rear toe, I felt I can reduce it more. So in the end I ended up with 25 and 40. This was the kind of good compromise for having both wheels locked but not too much, because you want to have no power slide out of an exit, and the coast basically helps you under braking and mid-turn. Generally for the Nordschleife you want to have the power lowest and the coast highest, but this will not work. So but this is like you start lower that one, you put that one into high on rear wheel cars, rear wheel driven cars. Then for the brakes, stock is like 75, that's way too high. Then I just went for 65 and 100. That was too much in the rear. Most iterations I had like 67 and 99. 99 is kind of nice in all cars because you have more time for trail braking and the car will not lock up. For the finished tune I went for 100 because it's a Hotlap tune, you want to have all braking performance there is. Yeah, and here that's the most important part on this car. I started like reducing the stock tune like 10 millimeters. So I put it there where it was. So it's like, yeah, it was like that. So stock is 134 front millimeter height and 197 millimeter height. I just went down 10 millimeter. I ended up with the straight toe in front, and I ended up with 0.1 toe in the rear, and I adapted the camber to the stock camber because I liked it. I started with 90 per millimeter for the spring rate in the front. Stock is 80, and I started with 50 in the rear. Stock is 60. So I went up in the front 10, I went down in the rear 10. It was already quite good, but the front was too stiff. So I reduced the front in my iterations kinda in the middle of 80 and 90. In Assetto Corsa, you can jump out into managing setups of the content manager, and then you can adjust the spring rate manually. It's kind of helpful. Yeah, so I went many laps with 10mm lower suspension and with arbs like 1 in the front and 2 in the rear. I really liked it, but with the changing of the differential, so less power, less coast, more coast, I also fiddled around with the arb, and stock is 2 front, 3 rear. I reduced it this first step, 1 front, 2 rear, so the rear will help to rotate and the front will less understeer. Then I was like, okay, I have somehow more, I want more grip in the rear, so I went for 1 in the rear. The car will stop to rotate because these are then even, so I went up on 2 for the front, because you always want to have a delta in the arbs, front to rear. Sometimes you reduce the rear, sometimes you reduce the front. It's kind of fiddly, but if you do minor steps and not too much between your iterations, you will be fine. Yeah, that's where I ended up. 2 in the front, 1 in the rear. And yeah, so I was already happy, but I still had my aero, so front splitter, rear wing, kinda high, and I wanted to reduce it. And I didn't like the 0 toe in the front. So I lowered the front a little bit, not that much, just to open up the toe, because the splitter already hit out on many bumps, so it's not that much you can lower it. It will be like almost 15mm lower than stock, so it's quite a big jump. And in the rear I put it just a little bit higher to get a bigger toe and to have the car in a more rake position. So you reduce the wings, but you put the front down, put the rear up, and the wings will work again a little bit more aggressive. This is the last thing you want to do. You don't want to mess around with rake in the beginning. It's the last step, because it will change everything again, camber, toe, and arrow. But sometimes it's a party trick, because you want to have the lowest wings as possible. And yeah, so that's it. It's kind of a long explanation. If you have specific questions, just put it in the comments. And now we will do a lap. Have fun! GP circuit is still quite new for me. I focused on the Nordschleife. Making setups, learning how to shift and heel toe. That was late on the brake. Still could use more aero, more downforce. But it's plenty. That was not the fastest. That was slow. That too, sorry. No excuses, it's hot in here, 30 degrees C. I'm exhausted from taking a video and new to that. Maybe the second half will be better. I still overdrive the cars a bit. And it's hard to shift from setup rides to Hotlap. They are a little bit different for me. Yeah, we slow up here because I shifted. not the cleanest lap. That was also slow and slide. Every time you hit the tires, you lose time. But the car is planted good, feels good. Running not out of the track, enough grip. That was slow too. That was good. So it's always a little bit of a game between the wing angle, corner speed and high speed. I think everything up 260 to 270 is good. Very exhausted. Could be cleaner, but it's in the target.